Good. I'll rise and recite the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today we have President Carl Gilmore, Vice President Crystal Handel. I have to get used to this.
You have to think about this for a little while, aren't you?
I have to think about it. Secretary Vicki Knight and Treasurer Pat Miller. We have our trustees Sharon Kinley and Jason Petz. Having announced Sharon as president for so many years, that's really weird to say. I just want you to know. Absent with notice is trustee Samantha Hurtado. We have staff members, me, Julie Milivek, Debbie Maxwell, and Lisa Pappas, who stepped out. Our owner's representative, Mark Rogers, Nagel Hartray Architects, Eric Penny, and Don McKay. No Julianne today. Hi, Vicki Polito, our favorite member of the public, and Heather Kasmark, our newest favorite member of the public, and our realtor back there in the background, Bill Wilson. So, thank you all for coming.
Excellent. Welcome, everyone. Anyone from the public care to comment on anything since our last foray here?
Hi guys, it's Vicki Polito, since it's can't see me on the reporter. I want to thank the library for their participation in our Worldwide Knit and Public event that we did at the cruise night last night. It went generally pretty well, about the number that I was guessing, which only means that I was good at guessing. It doesn't mean I knew anything. We hope to do it again next year, and we did a little cross promotion while we were sitting with people. We made sure that we talked about the library's social knitting group that will start its knitting again once the school year starts here. And Julie, don't feel too bad about saying this, tripping over who's president now, because at the park board meeting last week, somebody had an old roster for taking an executive vote at the reconvene, and they used a resignated board member's name. They called out her name to see if what she voted. So it was a little glitchy there, so you don't have to feel bad. But thank you for your help, and we'll be taking down our display at the end of the week, but I think it went well.
Good to hear. Anyone else? All right, then do we have any reports from trustee members who attended community events? I will start that. I was at the Coffee with the Mayor last Wednesday and spoke about the success of the kickoff week of the summer reading program and how well that's going, and I can't wait to hear more about that. Also had advertised the already now passed meetings on Thursday with the task force for the expansion planning, as well as for the general public meeting on Saturday, and got positive response, even from people who knew they weren't going to be attending, and so we are building some momentum around that idea. Anyone else?
I was at the flag ceremony for the Marine that had passed, and I met a neighbor and talked to her, and she's going to be coming to the Citizens Task Force.
Oh, great, good.
Other interested
All the
parties?
connections we can make.
I had, this first thing is really kind of not about community attendance, but the Illinois Reporter has an article in here by Michelle Peterson from the Plainfield Public Library District. We're very proud of Michelle's contribution. The top 10 tips to deliver on yes with your staff. Second, however, in between our last meeting and now, the Plainfield Rotary Mayor's Cup Golf Outing was held on May 28th, and I sponsored a hole on behalf of the Plainfield Public Library, so we had a sign out there with our logo, and I think it was the women's longest drive, but I can't be positive. In any case, if you'll notice, it was for a good cause, and the weather was perfect. Which we can't say very
Unlike
many
much
days.
of the rest of the
Right, so, you know, we are getting some kind of flavor of things that are better. And in addition, I went to the dinner which was honoring the 5 scholarship winners for the Plainfield Rotary scholarships, high school senior scholarships. And as such, I think every opportunity provides us I guess, a way in which we can certainly ask people how much the library has meant to your success. And I think that, interestingly, it has been a great contribution for some of these students who are really, special students from our schools here.
Good, good, thank you.
By the way, if anybody didn't see it, this is the enterprise coverage of the
Oh, there we
Plainfield
go.
Mayor's Cup.
A little bit smaller than Lord Stanley's.
Yes, yes. But after all, I mean, our mayor, I guess, although that's not technically his title, our mayor did indeed regain the Mayor's Cup.
Oh, did you, all right?
Yes, so Plainfield is number one in many ways right now.
Good deal. All right, let's move on to the consent agenda. Did anyone have any notes for the May 20th regular board meeting minutes? And we'll vote there because the other is an executive board meeting. The one note that I did have, Debbie, is at the bottom of page 1, the appointment of the secretary pro tem needs to come after the election of the officers. Otherwise, I really can't have done that yet.
Okay.
All right, then consent agenda is just a voice vote then? Or no, consent agenda is just passed. There we go. All right, so with one amendment, thank you. All right, and then we need to approve the bills paid and bills payable, which is listed on the new portion if you're still working from your
Original.
previous
The
meetings
first
data.
set of addenda to the packet included the agenda that had those called out.
So any questions about bills paid, bills payables to date?
Yeah, I might comment that although it was more extensive than what maybe previous reports have been, 45 pages plus, I did think it was relatively clearly done, so I think it could be an asset
Yeah.
for us to have that additional breakdown in the manner of our revenue and expenditures.
Yeah. Do you want to speak to any of that, Julie? And is
Uh,
this
there
a
was,
result of the?
There were some adjusting entries made, and so she included all of those general ledger notes and the general ledger activity in your financials. Kelly, as our new outsourced accountant, came in and inadvertently charged a group of invoices to the LSTA grant fund lines, which are a separate group from our regular operating fund, and then had to back those back out and put them into the operating fund. So for every one of those, every line that she made a mistake with, it took up about yay much space for her to make the adjusting entries and then report on them. So that resulted in about 30 additional pages in your board packets. But if you go through them, you can see where each one went in and then came back out and went back in onto the correct line.
All right. Any other questions on financials then? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I move we approve the bills paid and bills payable in the total amount of $247,388.97.
Second.
Second, thank you. Roll call, Julie?
Pat,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Vicky,
Yes.
Sharon? Yes. Crystal?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes. All right, passed. Without exception. Thank you. All right, item 5, committee reports.
You have the written report and they'll be making the recommendations.
Right. So, Pat, that will come for the
Report as submitted.
The written report has been received. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to read that. There are items that are normally done at this time that we are tabling due to different scheduling, but we will still keep ahead of the actual deadline for those items.
And I guess that'll be the first thing I'll address in my library director's report. Having spoken to our bond counsel, our bond underwriter, and our regular attorney, whew, that's a lot of attorneys and finance people, we will be pushing the budget and appropriations ordinance and levy ordinance to the limit of their statutory requirement in order that we can pass a levy that would contemplate, or at least consider passing a levy that would contemplate the actual ballot question. Our bond counsel advised us to inquire with our main county, Will County's tax extension office, on how they prefer to handle levy requests for a levy happening in the spring election, particularly because it is March 15th, which gives enough time theoretically to include that levy amount, should it pass, in tax bills going out in early May from the county. In order to do that, the board has two different options: to either pass that initial levy amount by the fourth Tuesday in December, I believe is the actual statutory deadline for that levy. We generally do it much earlier, but that gives us a lot of time to play if we need to. And then you can pass, or you can do your levy without the referendum amount and pass an amended levy following the election if your county will allow that. It's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, because in the event that you pass, that the initial levy includes the referendum amount, and the referendum does not pass, the tax extension office continues to do exactly what they always do, which is to put the tax cap calculation on top of the levy and ensure that the amount levy that is actually placed on the tax bill is within the tax capped amount. So they effectively reduce the levy regardless. It's just how much they reduce it. Having talked to the Will County Tax Extension Office, their reaction was, whichever way works for you. So, we figure at this point, we'll just keep going. We've got a lot of time, got lots of months to put this together and figure out how exactly the board is most comfortable doing that. So the working budget is what the Finance Committee focused on, and it is the working budget that we actually need in order to start our new fiscal year to control the actual spending. Budget and appropriations ordinance, that's really just the caps on all the spending for individual lines and groups of lines. Levy is what actually goes out on the tax bills. Working budget is what we use internally. So that's it on the finance end of my report. One other thing, after having spoken to John Traska from Every Library, he had a wonderful meeting with our marketing team this past week, talking about what they can do in the run-up to an actual informational campaign. What can they do now to help get the word out to people? And so their conversations will be centering around the need and answering people's questions about the need and about what the library is doing today. They have started a new initiative. I know Pat will like this one. It's called, it's #BecauseTheLibrary. And they're taking pictures of people with the big old whiteboard, it says #BecauseTheLibrary, and the idea is to have them put, because the library, I learned to read, I found a new hobby, I, finished my master's degree. So they're doing this with patrons and with people throughout the community, just to find out, what did people do because of the library. So it's a lot of fun. We're looking forward to seeing the results of that. They got started with it the first week during summer reading registration. Registration numbers look phenomenal, 3,500, oh my goodness. So kudos to the staff. And we're working hard. Lots of great programs going on, lots of noisy programs going on. The Finance Committee got to meet in my office during the instrument petting zoo that was held in the large meeting room, which is immediately underneath my office. So it was a little bit loud at various times during the finance committee.
We noticed.
Not due to yeah, there, every now and then it was like, so. So John Teretska would like to have a meeting with the Board of Trustees on August 28th to talk about informational campaign ideas and advocacy with the board. His suggestion was the afternoon. In the new business, you'll see the in-service closing for the library from 9 to 1 on that day is on our agenda. It was his suggestion to let everybody have lunch, bring the board in at 1 o'clock or after to do it.
That's the day of the tornado commemoration, is the reason I'm asking about it.
Why does everything always happen on the same day?
Just,
Blame that darn tornado.
Tornado. I don't know, I happened on the same day.
And what time is that?
well, I think that
Which
begins,
pieces?
the actual commemoration portion begins about 3 or 3:30.
Yeah, and if we could get started like right at 1 o'clock, he was just looking at an hour or two.
Yeah, so just,
So if we could do like a 1 to 3, that would be great.
I may have a house guest that day, so I have to see.
So are we gonna tentatively shoot for
If-
that?
If you all can, if everybody nods their heads in agreement, I will make sure that John is available. And he had already booked out that entire day for us. And we had already booked this room. So officially, that would be a committee of the whole meeting, but it would just be a workshop, no, just with John and talking about the informational campaign.
All right. And that would then be a public meeting from
Yeah.
1 to 3, obviously. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that should work on a Friday for me.
Yes.
So I guess let Julie know if that does not work, if something comes up.
It's in my phone, so now it's official.
It's official, all right, please
There we
go. Oh, we did talk about trying to set another committee of the whole meeting to talk about bonds and bond issue.
Yes.
I don't know that we need to do that right now, but since you talked about everything related to that.
There will likely be an additional meeting sometime between the, I would guess,
July and
between the
August.
July and August board meetings, somewhere in there, to talk about bonds and financing and public finance and to actually.
Language.
And bond language, and we may actually try to bring either, well, we have such we have some problems with conference call in this room, unfortunately, but we may try to bring in our bond counsel, Kelly Koss from Chapman and Cutler, to come in
Okay.
and help with that.
Good. I just think that'll help us all really be on the same page better with what this is going to mean in terms of the actual language and what people are voting on. All right. That's your report. The next
I
one.
guess that's
Thank
all
you.
of it.
All right. That's moving right through. Item 7, then we have some action items, unfinished business as well as some new. Starting with the unfinished, we have a presentation of concepts and feedback from the meetings last Thursday and Saturday. We can do some interpolation from those.
Sure.
Thank you.
So we're going to present, we're going to talk about 3 things today. The first being a couple of concepts that we've drawn since the last board meeting. We were asked to draw an L-shaped concept. So we've drawn that, we presented it to the community, but not to the board yet, so we'll spend a little bit of time doing that. Then we're going to talk about community meetings, and I think from our point of view, the primary purpose of the community meetings was to gauge the public's support for either the Greenfield site or for the downtown site. And so I think in that regard, they were very successful. The consensus was very clear, so that was successful. And then we want to spend a little bit of time at the end talking about what our next steps are that we see going forward to make sure that we're all in agreement on that. So, so we're going to start by talking about the L-shaped scheme.
Oh, did you put the thingy in?
Good gosh.
Won't work if I don't do that. Thank you, Julie.
I keep pushing the button.
You have to put the thingy in. So it talks to
I
you.
was just so happy that I found batteries.
If we have to do it manually too, that's okay.
Just hit the button.
We don't have that many slides. to-
If I guess the right button.
Okay, so these are the two, this is the first of the L-shaped schemes that we took a look at, and one of the things I want to point out is,
Yeah. No, that's okay.
everybody see it okay? The proportions of the building, so when we talked about the L-shaped scheme last time, I think frankly, we had envisioned something where the legs are maybe a little longer and a little thinner or something, but frankly, one of the things that's driving this is putting underground parking below. And so there's a kind of standard bay that's about 60 feet wide to get efficient parking in. So we have two of those bays here. That kind of determines how wide we need the building to be. The other thing is, if you think about trying to turn the corner and get more parking in the other L shape, it really doesn't work very well. It becomes very inefficient to try to turn the corner. So by maximizing a certain portion of the footprint, we get the most efficient parking in it. So it's not to say this is going to change as we go forward, but we know that parking is a real challenge on the site, so we're trying to maximize the parking. So in this scheme we have, this is kind of a variation on one of the other schemes that we showed last time, where we had the building up along Illinois Route 59 with parking and the entry really off of Illinois Street. So in this case, we've indicated in this little piece on the end that looks like kind of an appendage here, the sloped floor auditorium. It could be there, it could be someplace else, so that it's kind of conceptual right now. So with this scheme, what we end up with is a total of 150 parking spaces. So with all the schemes where we have below-grade parking, we're roughly between 140 and 150 parking spaces in all cases. On the next scheme, we took essentially, it's a very similar building footprint, but we just flipped it around.
Maybe it did go. That's good.
There we go. So we just flipped it around so that the primary portion of the building is at the north side of the site, and you can see the appendage that we have that sticks out towards the south part of the site. So again, here we have, I think, about 140 cars total in this scheme. We reserved a little bit of roadway. You know, we have because we took off some of the building end here in order to create this kind of pocket in the library here. We gained a little more space here, which we can use for a service drive, some landscaping. This also starts to change a little bit where we think about locating the entry to the building coming in. So I think if we were to pursue these schemes, the next step would be to really take the building program and start to lay it out in there and kind of see what the layout, kind of layout results for that.
What we really did find though when we did the L shape, as soon as we started making the legs roughly equal, it really cut into the on-site parking and the efficiency of the parking garage down below.
Right. And this, frankly, this is one of the real tricks in trying to build on this site, is getting the right balance between the square footage that we need for the program and the parking.
So we had the two community meetings, the Citizens Task Force and the Open Public Meeting last week. Citizens Task Force was very well attended. I think almost everyone that was supposed to be there showed. That was quite good. The public meeting a little sparser, but still had like 10 people, and he gave me a lot of feedback. They were very involved. So the main purpose was to look at the different sites and to get some input from them on what they felt about the Greenfield site versus the existing library site. And frankly, it was almost unanimous. I'd say unanimous, except that's a big word. Overwhelming support for the existing library site. It was really seen as the social and emotional heart of the community. It supports the business district. That came up multiple times. It's just, and other people felt it was a central, unbiased location. Now, maybe they live right next to here, but it was not seen as moving the library to one quadrant of the city or another. That it was very central, and therefore seen as a little fair. The Greenfield site is really about the remoteness and the adjacency of the other uses, the train, the water reclamation facility, the light industrial uses, and the fact that you don't know what's gonna be your neighbor, kind of in the long run, really, there wasn't much support for that at all. And then really a lack of pedestrian access altogether, except for one small housing area out there. So they came through very strongly about choosing the existing library site. That was their recommendation. We also asked them about the different concepts then for the existing library site to get their feedback on that. And this isn't anything binding. I think we got some, when we got feedback, concepts 2 and 5 were predominantly the ones people pointed out. That we didn't take a vote or anything, but again, it was a pretty strong showing of support for those two. I think part of what they liked about it is it opens up to, it faces downtown. It's open to 59th and Illinois Street. It's very visible. The parking's in a good spot for having an entrance off of it. You know, that all lays out quite well in those schemes. Good access all the way around. Couple concerns that were brought up, and I think we're gonna have these concerns in any case, is it's gonna be a much bigger building. How's it fit into downtown? This is gonna be part of the architectural challenge when we get to 3 dimensions. Also, a couple people brought up that the community may have expectations to reuse this existing structure. A fair amount of money was spent on it in 1990 roughly, and that walking away from it bothered some people, and I think it's something that we may have to look at a bit further.
So I think when we think about what's the logical thing to do moving forward, we haven't had a chance to discuss this with Julie or with owner services group yet, so this kind of, we've just been thinking about this afternoon. You know, what's the next step? What do we do going forward? And so here's our take on it. I think that clearly the strong favor towards the scheme where we build along the north side of the site, whether it's got a leg on it or whether it doesn't, it's essentially the same scheme. There are kind of variations on the theme. That we develop that scheme and we look at it kind of both ways, with the leg or without the leg. I think clearly that's one of the things that makes sense to develop going forward. I think the other thing that we think it makes sense to develop going forward is looking more seriously at an addition to this building. When we met with the community task force, I think it was the village trustee who spoke first. After our presentation, I think the first words out of his mouth were, "This is a frugal community." You know, and if you don't add on, if you don't look at a scheme where you add on to the existing building or think seriously about preserving the existing building, you're going to, you know, possibly get yourself in trouble. Now, our response was, at the end of the day, this is about the value that you're getting for the money that you're investing. And that we think it's worthwhile looking at that, but at the end of the day, you're paying roughly the same amount of money or some marginal increase to get an entirely new building. Maybe that's of value to the community. So I think that based on some of the things that we heard, I think in terms, just in order to address what we think is going to be an expectation of the community going forward, is that to kind of perform your due diligence, you have to take a serious look at how you could add on to this building. And so I think what we're proposing is to do that as one of the schemes that we developed. Now, I think the other thing that we'd like to take a look at is in doing so, one of our biggest concerns with adding on to the building is that if we build 3 floors next to the 2 floors that you have right now, and the 2 floors being kind of offset, you know, half levels, so to speak, how do we align those things up? And you get a kind of inefficient use of the library on the inside. So I think one of the things that we'd like to take a look at more seriously is building a new 3-story building that's attached to this one, but align the floors. Okay, so what that means is that you get the lower level would be half a level below grade, just like your current lower level is. But this will give you more flexibility in the future in terms of how you use the library. So I think we want to look at it both ways. And I think one of the other potential benefits of looking at these 2 schemes side by side is that we think it's going to be, based on even on the early concepts that we've done, we think that it's going to be easier to get more square footage in the brand new building on the site, more usable square footage than it is if we add on to the existing building. I think one of the benefits of looking at it this way is that as we go forward, you know, we've talked in the past about we've got to address the cost issue, you know, up front. And so one of the consequences of looking at it this way is that I think we're gonna get different cost models that come out of this as well. It will also give us a chance, almost force us, to work with Anders and, you know, look at if we were going to fit the program into a smaller size building, how does that work? And it's a way of kind of testing that idea as well. So I think there are a couple of benefits for looking at it this way. So I think that's kind of